Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to QPAC Live, a program of the Queensborough Performing Arts Center. We are so happy to have you with us here tonight. We come to you live each week to celebrate the arts with programs that are unique and exciting, and tonight is no different. But first, let's talk about some exciting things that are happening. Not only are we streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube, but now you can see us live on our website, www.visitqpac.org. You can also see us streaming live on Queens Public Television's website. That's QPTV on their website. And beginning in August, you're going to be able to see many of the programs that we are presenting you here uh, on the Queens Public Television stations. And I'm so thrilled about that because if there's anyone that you know that doesn't particularly care to communicate online or involve themselves online, now they can watch these wonderful programs right on the television, right on Queens Public Television stations in Queens and in Manhattan. So I'm thrilled about that collaboration, and I want to give a shout out to Roz Nieves, who helped us to make that happen. So thank you, Roz. Now, tonight, we want you to be interactive. We want you to share with us your thoughts and also ask questions. Ask questions of myself or ask questions of our guest artist tonight. You just need to type in your questions as you watch the broadcast below. Now, I understand if you are watching on YouTube, you do have to have an account. You have to sign up with a name and password, and then you too can interact with us. So do share some of your messages with us, and we'll be able to answer your questions as we go along. Now, I'm so excited about the guest artist that we have tonight. She is Grammy nominated, a fabulous pianist, and a terrific singer. But wait, there's more. I want to just take a moment to go down memory lane with you just a little bit, because there may be some of you watching us now who have not been to our beautiful theater, and I want to show you what we're all about. So if we just take a look right here, this is a picture of our beautiful theater. And you can see there are no obstructions, stadium seating. And what's so exciting about what's happening now is that even while this COVID is going on, we're in the midst of a $13 million renovation. When we come back, we'll be stepping into a beautiful, renovated space that we are really excited about bringing programs to. Perhaps you were with us when we celebrated the music of David Cassidy. What fun that was. The most loyal fans I've ever seen. They came from all over the world, UK, Netherlands, Japan. He has fans all over the world, and they came to Queensborough Performing Arts Center. Folks, if you don't know, the Queensborough Performing Arts Center is located on the campus of Queensborough Community College. Maybe you were there for the opera. We had 40 members of the orchestra in our pit. What an exciting day that was. I think we were showing La Traviata. Maybe you were there for the Siberian dancers. Talk about excitement. And if you like 70s music, we had the Osmonds. There they are. That's Jimmy and Merrill. Great guys. What fun. Truly a wonderful family. We have our share of Broadway performers. Here's the great Bernadette Peters. She made herself very comfortable on top of our beautiful Steinway grand piano. We had the flamenco dancers. There was KC and the Sunshine Band. What fun we had. And of course, we have comedy. Rob Schneider gave us a great time. We have our babies who perform during the year. Can't wait to welcome them back. And some more of the great Broadway elite. And that's a picture of Chapman Roberts, fabulous Broadway producer and musical director, Norm Lewis, who was the first African American Phantom on Broadway. And of course, next to him, the great Andre DeShields, who starred in The Wiz and Ain't Misbehavin', and most recently won a Tony Award for his appearance in Hades on Broadway. So, just a little walk down memory lane, and we'll be there again soon. But for now, this gives us an opportunity to bring you some fabulous artists right into your living room. So sit back, kick back, pour yourself a drink, cuddle up on the couch, and enjoy this presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, this gal is tremendous, a tremendous pianist, singer. Of course, we want to find out why Count Basie named her Stride. So that's going to be my first questions. Go ahead and start thinking up some questions now that you might like to ask. We'll get to them all, and sit back and enjoy this performance. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Miss Judy Carmichael.
Hi everybody, it's Judy Carmichael here from Sag Harbor, my town, with my Wonder Woman bracelets on, fighting off the pandemic. And I'm very excited to be part of this series, QPAC Live. So let's get started and have some fun. thank you for joining us. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Well, people ask me a lot, so I talk about this at every concert I do, that this particular style that's had a great influence on me is called stride piano, S-T-R-I-D-E. I spell it ever since someone came up to me here in the city and stopped me and said, "Oh my gosh, you're Judy Carmichael, that snide pianist." Not always. So anyway, it's stride piano. But we thought we would, I'm hoping there's some Peggy Lee fans out there. And good. Well, you might not know that she was also a wonderful lyricist. And she wrote with a number of her husbands. She had 5. Jazz can be hard on husbands. So she did this with her first husband, and from anything I've been told or read about her, this was her great love, Dave Barber, and he wrote the music and she wrote the lyric, and it's called I Don't Know Enough About You. Here we go. I know a little bit about a lot of things. I don't know enough about you. Just when I think you're mine, you try a different line. And baby, what can I do? I read the latest news, no buttons on my shoes. Well, baby, I'm confused about you. You've got me in a spin. Oh, what a stew I'm in, 'cause I don't know enough about you. Jack of all trades, master of none, and isn't it a shame? I'm so sure that you'd be good for me, if only you would play my game. You know I went to school, and I'm nobody's fool. That is to say, until I met you. I know a little bit about a lot of things, but I don't know enough about you. A little bit about a lot of things, but I don't know enough about you. Just when I think you're mine, you try a different line. And baby, what can I do? I read the latest news, no buttons on my shoes, but baby, I'm confused about you. You've got me in a spin. Oh, what a stew I'm in, 'cause I don't know enough about you. Jack of all trades, master of none, and isn't it a shame? I'm so sure that you'd be good for me, if only you would play my game. You know I went to school, and I'm nobody's fool. That is to say, until I met you. I know a little bit about a lot of things, but I don't know enough about you. I know a bit about biology, a bit more in psychology. Yeah, I'm a gym in geology, but I don't know enough about you. I don't know enough about you, but I don't know enough about you. Enlighten me.
Let's hear it one more time for the Judy Carmichael Quartet.
Hey, this is the way we applaud virtually. Hands up. Everybody hands up. Hands up. All right, without further ado, I am so excited to bring on with us Judy Carmichael. Come on in, Judy.
There I am.
There. Woo! Judy, we're doing the
Yes.
hands up. That's the way we applaud virtually.
I love it. I love it.
Just the greatest. I was bopping here. Honeysuckle Rose. Oh my, I've never heard it like that. Can you please tell us a little bit about stride? I mean, what makes stride different from other types of piano playing? Tell us about stride.
Well, everybody seems to know what ragtime is, and this is the jazz style that grew out of that. That's sort of the short explanation. And it's called stride because the left hand is striding from the bass end of the piano to the mid-range. So it's playing the bass notes and the chords. So it's very orchestral. And in the early days, this is the way people played jazz. And they'd say stride more like a verb. They'd say, boy, that guy can really stride if you can make these big leaps over the piano. And so people refer to me as a stride pianist because I've specialized in this style.
Well, there's two things that I kind of know. I mean, there's so many things I want to talk about, but there's two things that jumped out to me. First, of course, the stride, as you said, there's a lot going on the left hand and a lot going on the right hand. it must be so exhausting to play.
Well, I'm very fit. I don't know that you could do this if you didn't have a lot of energy. It's a very energetic style, so you're right. But my chops are up, so I can do it. But it isn't. It's very aerobic. You're right.
That is amazing. And what's interesting is we're talking about Honeysuckle Rose. Of course, that was composed by the great Fats Waller. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I love, with a big LOVE, I love his music. And he was a stride pianist. Am I
Yes.
correct?
He was probably the most famous of all of them coming up. Everyone played some sort of style, but he was such a huge star.
He was a huge star. And, I really, of course, they did a great show on Broadway called Ain't Misbehavin'. We had both Ken Page, who starred in it, and Andre DeShields. We had both of them. They are crazy. And it really is one of my favorite shows of all times. My sisters and I go around singing those songs all the time. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I don't know many people, I dare say maybe two, maybe you and one other person that could play Fats Waller music like that. It was extraordinary. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, one of our people in the audience, and we have a million questions coming in here, so I'm going to get to some of them. But someone noticed she's playing in stilettos. What are you so now you have that left hand going bum bum bum, bum and the right hand's playing the melody, so there's a lot of stuff going on, and the feet, and then I go, wait a minute, let me see if that's right. So I looked at this comment and then I glanced down. Is that your thing? Are you comfortable in heels? Is that your thing?
I am comfortable in heels. I don't wear the huge ones because I'll tell you, I'll let you in on a secret. After years of doing this, I would get cramps in my calf because I'm not keeping time. It's a reaction, it's that people are surprised about that. Musicians, their foot is tapping in reaction to this. It isn't because the time is inside of me, but my foot would be bouncing all night in that position. And if I wore really high heels, I'd get a cramp at the end of the night because just from tapping it all night. And
right.
So, but I wear, 2.5, 3-inch heels. I don't go 4 or 5,
I love it. I love it.
But I do have my Jimmy Choos that I adore.
Well, it's just incredible. And there's something else that I noticed. Look at me. I'm so obsessed with your performance that, and I am going to get to some of the other questions, but, tell us about this calling out of names. In other words, I heard when you were playing, I didn't hear exactly the names, but you hear Mike, John. Tell me about that. Because obviously they're taking, I guess, a solo, but are they prepared for that solo? Is it something they do sort of spontaneously? Tell me a little more about that.
That's a great question. And it's, I have to tell you something funny. I had a woman come up to me afterwards, after a concert once, and she talked about the music. And then at the end, she goes, and I just loved hearing you order those men around. Because I'm pointing and everything. So jazz, there's, the way jazz works, generally, a very general way, is you state the theme, the melody of the tune, and then everybody does a variation on those themes. And I always explain it that the leader of the band, if you think of like an American football, I'm the quarterback. So the play, you have a play going in, which is our tune and the key.
Right.
So I call the play, but then depending on what I hear behind me with the musicians, the way I feel about my chorus, I decide who's going to take the next chorus. That's all sort of a balance. So I improvise within the tune in terms of who I call on. And then because I want to balance with that as well. I don't want it to always be piano, sax, guitar. And so I had these great musicians who I should say, that was Harry Allen on tenor sax, Neil Miner on bass, and Andy Brown, who had flown in from Chicago on guitar. And so they know that, and one person might get carried away and have great ideas and do 3 or 4 choruses, then I might tell someone else just do one. But that's what I'm doing, is I'm yelling out their names, or I'm pointing at them and telling them what to do.
But how amazing that they've got to be, they've got to be really in it. First of all, they've got to know where you are. You talk about a lot of the audience may not know these intricacies, but the musicians need to know they've got to stay in it. They've got to be focused. They've got to stay in it, and they've got to stay on their toes, because at any time, as you said, you might call out to them, it's on you. The spotlight goes to the bass player, and bam, if he's not ready, and then he also needs to know sort of where you are in the song so that he can pick up on that. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily maybe go from the verse and to another verse. You'd want to go to from the verse to the chorus or something like that. So they've got to stay very in tune with you. I'll tell you, that's a beautiful sort of happening that takes place on the stage. That's that live element that all of us are craving so much right now, that spontaneity. And you do it so well. And the gentlemen who are playing with you, spectacular. We have a question, Judy, from David, and I love it. He says, what diet exercise produces all that energy at the keyboard and on the tennis court? Does he know something we don't know? And this is a great question. How many hours a day or week do you practice at the keyboard? Thank you, David.
Well, I'm afraid I haven't been practicing as much as I should these days. About an hour a day. But if I've got something coming up, I'll practice more. But I've been working on other projects because I know that I don't have a performance that's coming up right now. So I'm finishing a book, and I have some other things. But I do play, David, I saw that. He knows I play tennis. So I think that I've talked about this before. I think that when you travel, because I'm usually on the road a couple hundred days a year, and I'm sure you know this, Susan, because you know how it works, but that you have to, if you're going to survive this business and you're on airplanes, and I'm usually traveling alone, and so I'm carrying my own bags, I'm doing all of that, and to have the energy for the performance, my joke sort of, but it's true, is that you're like a professional athlete without the entourage and the money to support you. So right. I don't have a massage therapist with me every minute. I don't have somebody shuffling my bags. I'm doing it all, but I have all the pressure of a professional athlete because I have to be healthy, perform, have the energy. You have to bring it. I love you saying it that way. And everybody has to be completely engaged. And jazz musicians are such great listeners because they have to be on their toes every minute because it's improvised.
It's so interesting. I was talking last week a little bit about the ballet companies that we've had at the theater, the Russian Ballet, Moscow Festival Ballet, and these, companies, as you just said it yourself, they're touring all over. They're a bus and truck show. So they tour on a bus. Now these are, dancers, and they're on a bus for hours and hours. They're sleeping on the bus. And then of course, as you said, you always have to stay at the ready. So they get off the bus, and then they first engage in a full dance class, and that's before the show even happens. So they are constantly in it, training. And so what you say makes a lot of sense to me. Steve Leslie wanted to know, what venue were you playing in that piece?
That was Dizzy's at Jazz at Lincoln Center. I do something there every year. It's a wonderful, wonderful, and I have to thank them they filmed that, and that was really nice. So yeah, wonderful people there, and I love it. So that's kind of become my club. The only really club I play. Otherwise I'm doing concerts. So that's very much like a concert space. And because people are very focused. So that's what that was.
Is that the one? I think where there are all the windows in the back, and you
it's
can
amazing, right?
Guys, yeah. It's it's spectacular. Yeah. I've seen a number of artists there. One of my favorite that I've seen there, Marilyn May. Do you know who Marilyn May is?
Of course I do. I know Marilyn. She's amazing. She's amazing. Yeah.
She is just another one of my idols. I just love.
Yeah, talk about energy.
I'm sorry?
Talk about energy. And is it 90 now or something? It's just incredible. Yeah.
I think she just celebrated her 91st, but she gets out there. She kicks. Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever have a chance to see Marilyn May, Marilyn, if you're out there, you're coming on the show with me. She is just spectacular. Now, I must ask you, about the singing. So we're talking about the music. So did the music come first? Did the playing come first? And I believe you said, because we answered one of the questions from the audience prior, they wanted to know when your love for the piano began. I think you said you were 4 years old. Is
Well,
that
no,
correct?
that's interesting. That's a different way of asking the question, because I wasn't crazy about the piano. I mean, I took piano lessons from a teacher I didn't like so many people. And I was really engaged with the piano when I heard a kind of music that I liked. And that's what made me, I mean, I didn't dislike the piano, but I wasn't passionate about the piano. And then I was in college actually as a language major, and I was doing auditioning for some things in acting. I was going to go in one of two directions. I was either going to go in the foreign service with all these languages or be an actor. And then, but I played a few ragtime tunes, and I got a job playing ragtime while I was in college. And then someone played me a Count Basie record, and I went crazy and taught myself how to do this from the record. So that made me really passionate, because when I heard stride piano, I thought, I want to do that. And so that made me fall in love with the piano. So I was old. I was 19. That's really late for somebody to start being a professional. I didn't even know what key I was in when I got my first job. I walked in, played one tune, and they hired me.
Wait a minute. But you can read, correct?
I can read, yeah. So I memorized, but I didn't have good lessons. It was, that's really true with a lot of people who take piano lessons. You can learn that it's, one flat, but they don't tell you that you just know you flat that beat, but you don't know that that's the key of F and what that means. It's like learning a language by rote and not learning the grammar.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
so do you play by ear? Can you?
Now I taught myself how to do all that. I sat there with the record or with this cassette of Count Basie, and I had to pick out each note. I didn't hear it and think, oh, that's a G chord, that's a B chord. I listened, picked it out, figured, oh, it sounds like he's doing that. Yeah, it was really, I'm amazed by it that I spent the time doing it and learned
That's insane. Steve Leslie.
It is insane.
That's just insane. Steve Leslie says you're wonderful. She certainly is. Do you teach? Are there younger players interested in this style? I certainly hope there are.
Yeah, I don't teach generally. I do master classes, but I do have this young man came in. And last year in San Diego, he was so cute. He's 20, he was sitting in the front row. And I thought he was an actor, he's gorgeous. And he came up afterwards, he said, this is the greatest moment of my life. I play stride piano, I have your music books, because I have music books. So people have gotten that. So I will give people who are already into it. A number of people write to me, and I would just advise them, and I just do it for free. I call him my stride baby, and I'm his stride queen. It's very sweet. And I have a few people like that. And then, of course, I do master classes, as I said.
So where did the singing come about?
Oh, that's really recent. That is a brand new thing. Yeah, I never thought I'd sing.
I mean, were you scared? Were you scared?
I had vocal issues when I
did you say to yourself? Did you say, you know what? I want to do more during my show. I'm going to start to sing. How did that happen?
No. Everybody always wanted me to sing because everybody wants you to sing. You know how that is. And if you're a woman playing piano, you must be a singer. And so one of my early supporters, two of the people that really supported me when a lot of people didn't, because I was unusual. There weren't a lot of women instrumentalists when I was coming up. But Sarah Vaughan was a friend and a great supporter, and so was Carmen McRae. So if you're 20, 22, and you're hanging out with them, you don't want to sing. You're thinking, this is as good as it gets.
No way.
I got laryngitis very easily, and I'd had a couple vocal cord surgeries, so I didn't think that I could sing. And so my voice, as you know, I have a show on NPR, and my voice got healthier, and I worked on it. I went to some therapists and things. And then a few years ago, I was listening to an early Peggy Lee thing in the car, and I thought, maybe I could tiptoe into this, and I started singing along with it. And bit by bit, I realized I could do it, and here I am. I love it. It's a great passion. And I still consider myself a very beginning singer, but I love it.
So let me ask you a question. Have you ever forgotten a lyric? Hold on. Have you ever forgotten a lyric? And then what kicks in? does the singer's instinct kick in where you start to make up words? I mean, I know that I've made up words on the spot, and I afterwards I'd go, where did that come from? What was that? It's survival of the fittest. Or is it because you are so in tune with the piano and the instrument? Do you start scatting? What do you do? I mean, have you forgotten a lyric? And what do you do in that instance?
It's such a great question. I haven't. I've been good with that. Well, the only time I did once, and that's because for the first time I was being accompanied by someone else, and I got distracted. It was the great Mike Renzi, who you probably know. Yeah,
we love Mike Renzi.
Yeah,
sure.
Mike Renzi. For those who don't, he was Peggy Lee's MD for years. He was Tony Bennett's. He's at Sesame Street. He is a god to all of us in the business. So he is the ultimate accompanist. Everybody it's like they face east when you say Mike Renzi. So Mike was accompanying me, and I got so distracted by how beautiful it was. And I was thinking about his voicings, the notes that you choose to put a chord together, for the people who don't know what that means, that I forgot the lyrics because I just got distracted. And so then I just I turned to the audience and I just said, I'm so into what he's playing, I'm just going to stop singing for a while. So I just admitted it. And then he played, and then I went into another chorus. So I didn't even try. No, I would not scat. I'm not that's so beyond me. I'm not. You have to tiptoe towards scatting, as you know. I think that's like, even Jessica Molaski told me a hilarious story about scatting. I asked if she scatted, and she said that she was a Catholic girl from Connecticut. And so there was like a no scatting zone. You don't scat if you're a Catholic girl from Connecticut. So I like that.
That is so funny. We have a question from Yaniv Zarif. Yaniv joined us. Do you know Yaniv? He joined us last week.
I need to get my glasses.
You talked about about languages. How many languages do you speak, Judy?
Do I? I fake about 4, but I don't speak anything fluently, but I'm very good at faking languages. Yeah, people are convinced I speak Portuguese, Spanish, German. German's my best. I actually do speak a bit of German and Italian. So when I go to a country, I really work on the language, so I speak the language from the stage. And so people.
That's incredible. Language is not one of my things. I mean, I do speak a little Spanish, maybe a little Hebrew, but I'm not really terrific. But Yaniv, he was on with us last week. He speaks 32 different languages.
Oh my gosh, I'm so envious. See, that's the road not taken for me. That's what I wanted to do, was be a linguist. Let's see. Have you ever had a musician who was unfamiliar with your style of your show, and how do you work with that? That's a good question. Well, because I'm always the leader, I hire the people, and I hire them because they know. But I will tell you a funny story. This was in Brazil, and I had the bass player didn't get his visa, so I was stuck, and I had to use somebody else's. He was a virtuoso, but didn't listen. The very thing, Susan, you're talking about. He wasn't really listening to what was appropriate to the style. And I was looking at my drummer, my guitarist, who play with many different musicians. Sidemen play with lots of people, and they're very good at adapting. I'm always the leader, so I hire people who adapt to me, who are already good at playing that style. And this guy was terrible at doing that. And I kept trying looking at the other musicians. I'm trying to make it work. It isn't working. And I just kept yelling. What jazz musicians do is we say lay out, which means tacit, stop.
Woo! Oh,
that's the way that you do it.
Wait a minute, Judy. If you hear lay out, that's the last time you're working with that person.
No. That's what you do anyway. If you want to do for contrast, you'll have the band drop out, and you'll take a chorus, and and then the band comes charging in.
Okay.
Except that I said it about 4 times in a row. And it still didn't work. And so I finished the tune, and I quietly went over during a chorus of the guitar player. I got up and I walked over, and I told the sound man to turn him off. And he didn't know I turned him off, but then the audience couldn't hear him. That's how I handled that. It was pretty harsh, but I was desperate.
When things, I do understand it. It's like a runaway train,
It was
and
like a runaway train.
you go, oh my God, how am I going to get this back? How am I going to get this back on track?
Yeah.
But that,
And you're the leader and you have to. And the other men are looking at me and they know it's a runaway train and they're thinking, Judy, you've got to do something. So, yeah.
so we've got so many questions coming in. How, this is a silly question that came in earlier today.
No, I'm sure it's fine.
It's a silly question. How often does one tune their home piano?
How often does one take? Well, mine needs it right now because I haven't had my guy come over because I've been worried about social distancing.
Exactly.
I think everybody, if you've got a home piano, it should be tuned at least once a year. And I would say twice a year. It's not that expensive. It's $100, $130. And it's bad for a piano if it isn't tuned. It actually hurts the piano. And then if you go, well, Susan knows this, if you go a year or two or something, then when you finally have it tuned, it goes out of tune in a month or two. So you really have to keep it up. So I'd say twice a year, but I have mine tuned every couple months.
Judy, what jazz legend would you want to perform with? It's interesting. The Queensboro Performing Arts Center is located in Queens, New York, and that is the birthplace of so many of our jazz legends. They either lived here, they either were born here or they lived here. Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, so many of the great jazz musicians. Who would you want to gig with?
If I could, somebody who's passed away that I could bring back.
Yes, anyone. Yeah. Who would that person be?
Louis Armstrong, Lester Young. Yeah.
And why is that?
Well, their melodic understanding. They invented the music, and you play with somebody, it's like a great dance partner. It elevates everything. And I've found in my own life that when I've gotten to play with some really great musicians, I'm never the same. I play, first time I remember there's a great bass player I use in England named Dave Green. He's just amazing. And he's in his 70s now. And he swings so hard that I'd never experienced anything. It felt so different. And I thought, well, this will never happen again. This happened with Dave. But then I came home and I played with my own band and they said, what happened to you? That my swing had gotten even deeper and all of that. So these things change you on an almost organic level. And with these really great players, because no amount of talking is going to make you play that way. But then when you play with them, something different happens. So they would be two right off the bat that I'd love to play with.
Do you know that movie called High Society?
Oh, of course. I've seen it 100 times.
Let me tell you, you talk about when brilliance meets brilliance. There's that song in that movie, Now Jazz Begins. Well, you take some skin, you know that one? Yeah. And so you have Bing Crosby. Is that what the song's called? Do you know?
High Society.
It's called High Society?
Oh, yeah. I think so.
High Society or Now Jazz Begins. Anyway, and so you had Bing Crosby and you had Louis Armstrong, talking about Louis Armstrong. And up until I had seen that movie, I knew Louis Armstrong to be a great, musician, a great trumpet player, and I used to watch him and his cheeks got big and that was all. But then I saw him in this movie, and him and Bing Crosby together, I have never felt more elevated and excited about jazz and music. And I saw what you are talking about when two or three or four brilliant people come together, the whole experience, they feed off each other and it becomes a delicious musical frenzy.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way of putting it. It really is. And Armstrong and Bing were really great friends. And he was quite respected by those musicians because Bing started out as a jazz guy. We know him as White Christmas Bing from later, but in the early years, he was a jazz singer and he very influential. So yeah, it was lovely to see them together in that movie.
Here's a great, let's see, here's a question from Judy. She says, when learning a new tune, do you hear the arrangement in your head of how you want it to sound? You bring a fresh sound to these old tunes. Can't wait to see you again in person.
She's in Chicago. I know who this is. Hi, Judy. No, I learn a tune. It depends. With singing, I know sooner. I can feel what I want to do, what the tempo is going to be, and I'm sort of thinking of every, the orchestra is sort of behind me in my head. When I'm learning a tune on the piano, the first thing is just to learn and get comfortable with it, and then it just changes as I'm playing it. That just sort of evolves. But I don't have an arrangement right away when I'm learning a tune, usually.
David A says that song we were talking about is called Now You Has Jazz. That I think you're right, David, by Cole Porter. Thanks so much.
So we have a research person here.
You see, you always have to be careful what you say, because they're listening carefully. They're going to stop you if there's something.
I know David knows his stuff. He knows his stuff.
And so your musical influences, we had this question early on. Count Basie, some of the others?
Well, Count Basie, Lester Young. I listened to a lot of those early. There's these famous recordings with Billie Holiday. They're called the Billie Holiday Small Group Sessions, and they were all very influential on me. That was Teddy Wilson on piano, which was he played much differently then. And so I transcribed a bunch of those things. And Freddie Green, of course, was Basie's longtime guitarist who became a friend, which was wonderful. He was on my first recording session. So he was a big influence. And Harold Jones, great drummer, was an influence. He's with Tony Bennett now, was with Sarah Vaughan for years. And so, but the main ones I listened to a lot when I was starting out were Teddy Wilson, Earl Hines, Count Basie, Fats Waller, James P. Johnson. Those are the piano players. And then the horn players would be Louis Armstrong and Lester Young, Coleman Hawkins, people like that.
And let me ask you just one or two more questions. Folks, for those of you that are watching tonight, we are so thrilled to have you with us. Thank you for taking this ride, and I do mean ride, with me and Judy. I can talk to Judy forever. We are nearing the end of our interview. If you do have any other questions, please ask them now. Kevin says, how does, interesting question, how does a venue size influence your performance?
Oh, what a lovely question.
Yeah.
Well, I try to make, you do have to change if it's going to be, I think, appropriate. I think it would, if I walked out in front of a small, 100 seat venue and distance the people. I mean, it's an energy thing. When I walk out on stage on Carnegie Hall, what I love about it is I can be as big. I'm like you, Susan. I've got a lot of energy, and I can let it out. It's a big energy, and the big space and big audience absorbs that energy. And if I did that for 100 people, it would seem odd. So the main thing I do is it's a little more casual feel, like here it's just a few of us, we're friends and that kind of thing. But I guess I try to make Carnegie Hall seem intimate, like you're all in my living room. And the living room, I try to make you feel like you're at a concert venue, but still you're keeping that intimacy.
Let me ask you one quick question, and we are about to wrap up, because I'm curious to hear your opinion about it. There is some talk about this sort of distant seating in the theaters, where theaters would be at, a quarter capacity.
Yeah.
Just as an artist, is that something you're willing to sort of adjust to, or would you prefer, let's wait it out? What is your take on that?
I love that you're asking that, Susan, especially as a presenter, because this is on all of our minds. I talk to the audience a lot. And one of the things that you and I know that people don't, they say, oh, you like numbers, you want lots of people. The biggest advantage with numbers is that everyone's having a good time, but some people are more demonstrative than other people. Like I always say, if I could design an audience, it'd be half young people, half older people. The older people know they're more sophisticated. The younger people have the energy. They feed each other. And so the advantage with lots of people is that if you've got a couple people having fun, but they're just not demonstrative, they don't show it, they feel like they get into it because they're surrounded by people. So I've thought about what you're saying. And I think with people distanced, I would say up front, look, I'm looking out at you and I know it's 3,000 people, even though it isn't. And say, we're all going to give each other energy because I know you miss having people next to you. And I would bring them into it. So the answer is yes, I'm anxious to do that. I'd relish it. I'd welcome it. But I would bring the audience in on this experience because as we work our way out of this pandemic, we are all going to have to do things that are very different. And I think if we are honest, as you are with this beautiful series, Susan, you putting this together, and I mean that sincerely, and I'm thrilled to be part of it, we all have to adapt and say, we're in this together, we will get out the other side, but in the meantime, this is how we can present. And this is how we can still have fun, is if we all, I'm going to put more energy into it, and you are too as the audience. And I think it will work.
That is really remarkable what you're saying, and I think a lot of artists can learn from you that there really has to be an adjustment on both ends.
Yeah.
You have to have sort of everyone has to be willing, the willing participant, the willing artist, the willing presenter. It can and will take more work, but I really appreciate that input, and we will look for artists that are willing to make that adjustment if we decide to go that route.
Yeah, and I think it's being honest and saying we're in it together, because I know one of the things that said to me a lot is the thing in England. I've had other entertainers say that the English hold back and all that. Well, I love it there, and I spend a lot of time, and I just walk out on stage and I say, now just calm down. I know that you English are always out of control. Well, they start laughing because they know they're not, and next thing you know, they're cheering.
Well, I think, Judy, one of the greatest things about you is that people tend to think, oh, she's a serious pianist. We've got to really, but your whole presence, there's you have a comedic style, and your whole energy is joyous, and your audiences get that. I do hope that you will come back. We have one quick question here, Rosemary. I'm not going to let you hang. She says, when you are home, what is the go-to song you love to play for yourself?
Oh, how interesting. That's really nice. Yeah. I guess you're driving me crazy. It's the first Peggy Lee tune that I heard her sing that made me want to sing. So you may not know that, but it's an old jazz standard, and it's kind of medium tempo, a little sexy. So I'll sit down and sing that and play that for myself.
Judy, I must tell you, some people say all the time, you remind me of you have a beautiful, beautiful face. Do people tell you look a little bit like Olivia Newton-John?
Oh, yes, I love that. I usually get Meg Ryan, but I love Olivia.
Oh, yes, and absolutely Meg Ryan, too.
Thank you. I love them both.
Vinny says, Judy is adorable. There's the comment right there. Judy is adorable.
Thank you.
Vinny, we think so, too. Folks, we're so happy you joined us here today. We do want you to come back. Again, we're bringing you entertainment every week. We know that you want to be with us and we want to be with you, but this is a way we can interact with each other. We can laugh together. We could share thoughts. We want you to continue to join us here next week. We have a fabulous show, Love is a Rose. This is a tribute and a celebration of the music. Do you know the music of Linda Ronstadt? Now, this is going to be a little different. It's a live band. So when you tune in, you're going to see the band play in person. You'll hear the music. You'll see the mistakes. Everything is going to right. Which I love. I tend to like more of that than anything else because then it seems real, So join us next week, Friday at 7:00. Now, we are going to continue with these shows. They may change in time a little bit, so make sure that when you tune in, you know what time the show it will begin. But for next week, it's 7:00. We want to do a very special shout out and thank you to all of our supporters. Even during this time, they recognize that we are meeting the challenges of this situation, and they still are there to support us. We love each and every one of you. Folks, if you do feel like if you're in a position to donate, this is how you can give a little tip to Judy for her time and her performance this evening. We hope that you'll do that. And of course, you could always go on our website, www.visitqpac.org. If you care to make a donation to us, we would appreciate it. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Interestingly enough, we didn't know this because we're kind of new at it, but you have to have a certain amount of subscribers in order to be able to do certain things on YouTube. So
I didn't know that either.
Crazy stuff. So that's why we ask if you would hop on over to YouTube and click subscribe. It doesn't subscribe you to anything except it'll let you know when we go live. And just briefly, I'm looking at the last few questions. Yes, they say please subscribe. Warren Shine says thank you so much. Judy is a dream. Oh, Rosemary says what a duo for a dinner party.
I know we need it, except I need better lighting like you. It got dark. You know, it was right here. I needed some light on me, but
that's so funny. Well, Rosemary, that sounds wonderful. I'm in. I'm absolutely in. And thank you for that. I'm Rosemary. We appreciate you. Nice. And very nice of you to be here with us week after week. So again, thank you all. Judy, thank you so much. We want you to come back when the theater is up, when our new theater is up and running. We're going to have a QPAC Live reunion, and that is going to be all the folks who are on QPAC Live with us. We're going to have them come back, and it's going to be a celebration like no other. Please join us for that.
I would love it. That's fantastic.
And thank you all for being here and for your questions, folks. We'll see you next week. Much love. Enjoy the week. Thanks, Judy.
Thanks.